Welcome back to your nerdy show. I'm your host, Spoiler Master. The premiere of House of the Dragon Season 3 brings the long-promised and absolutely devastating Battle of the Gullet right to our screens, and wow, it did not disappoint. There is very little that the Game of Thrones franchise does better than large-scale, high-stakes battles, but this sequence is something else entirely. For context, the Battle of the Gullet is known as the bloodiest sea battle in Westerosi history, and it stands as one of the most significant, world-altering turning points in the entire Dance of the Dragons. It is precisely for this reason that A Song of Ice and Fire book enthusiasts have been so incredibly eager to see this conflict brought to life. After 2 long seasons of anticipation, agonizing build-up, and political posturing, the showrunners wasted absolutely no time throwing us directly into the meat grinder. The Dance of Dragons ignites. The Battle of the Gullet explained. To understand how we got here, this explosive third installment picks up just after Alicent Hightower's secret late-night visit to Dragonstone at the end of Season 2. While Rhaenyra Targaryen excitedly considers the very real possibility of taking the Iron Throne in a matter of days with minimal bloodshed, King Aegon has already fled the Red Keep in secret. This chaotic departure prompts a furious Aemon Targaryen to stay behind with his massive dragon, Vhagar, to secure King's Landing. So, while Alicent's promise to open the city gates to Rhaenyra and her dragons is entirely genuine, Jacaerys' urgent warnings to his mother that this could all be a massive, calculated trap aren't exactly unfounded. Alicent does manage to pull off some brilliant trickery back in the capital, successfully convincing Aemon to head out to Harrenhal as he originally planned, which seemingly ensures that Rhaenyra's path to claiming her birthright is completely clear. However, just as the rightful queen sends word to Jacaerys Velaryon to head in from the Gullet to secure the vital port at Blackwater Bay, the Sea Snake scouts spot an ominous wall of warships emerging on the horizon. The Triarchy, now officially allied with the Greens thanks to some past diplomacy, has arrived with a vengeance to permanently shatter the Velaryon blockade. Corlys quickly sends an urgent distress signal back to Rhaenyra, and the Queen immediately responds with the impulsive decision that she will fly into the chaotic fray herself on the back of her dragon, Syrax. Not only does Jace fiercely oppose this reckless move, but he takes things a step further by ordering his mother's own Queen's Guard to bar her door, physically keeping her grounded and safe inside Dragonstone while he takes charge. Jace then takes off into the skies with his own dragon, Vermax, alongside Baela Targaryen on Moondancer to handle the threat. Thanks to the raw firepower of these 2 dragons and their riders, combined with Corlys' legendary tactical skill at sea, the Blacks ultimately claim a decisive victory at the Gullet. Still, as the smoke clears over the burning water, it is absolutely not a happy ending for Team Black. A Pyrrhic victory, the heartbreaking cost of the clash. There is little doubt that this premiere delivered one of the best, most visually stunning naval battles in the entire history of the franchise. The Battle of the Gullet is pure, unadulterated chaos born of sea and air, featuring exceptional shows of mastery and desperation from not just Corlys Velaryon and the ruthless Triarchy Admiral, Shirako Lohar, but also the Sea Snake's bastard son, Alan of Hull, who truly proves his mettle in the thick of it. When the fighting finally settles, Alan successfully kills Shirako, and the once mighty Triarchy fleet is left utterly burned and scattered across the sea. But this triumph comes at the absolute highest cost imaginable, the tragic life of Prince Jacaerys Velaryon. The tragedy unfolds in a brutal sequence of events. Jace and his dragon, Vermax, are nearly pulled down into the merciless waves by Shirako the very moment they arrive on the battlefield, but they manage to break free just in time thanks to a well-timed assist from Baela and Moondancer. The pair of young dragon riders begin systematically burning enemy ships that have been separated from the main flagship, while Corlys masterfully baits Shirako deeper into the trap. It is a brilliant, coordinated strategy that honestly should have worked perfectly, but Rhaenyra Targaryen throws the entire plan off course when she unexpectedly appears in the skies on the back of Sheepstealer. The wild, fiercely independent dragon refuses to obey his new master's frantic commands and begins attacking friend and foe indiscriminately, throwing the entire battlefield into absolute disarray. Jace might have actually survived the encounter had he not noticed at the absolute last second that the mysterious dragon rider attacking his flank was his own family, Rhaena. In a moment of pure instinct, he orders Vermax to pull back, desperately sparing Rhaena and Sheepstealer from what would have been a deadly decisive strike. However, Jace's hyper-focus on avoiding a family tragedy leaves his own blind spot completely vulnerable to the enemy's lingering forces. This time, the Triarchy exploits the opening. Vermax is successfully snagged and dragged into the crashing water by a heavy grapnel, and while Jace violently frees himself from the drowning dragon's saddle, he is ruthlessly shot and killed by crossbow fire while helpless in the water. The the Sheepstealer conundrum, Rhaenyra's mistake changes everything. Jacaerys' sudden death is deeply tragic, regardless of the circumstances, and Rhaenyra is going to be utterly broken by the news, especially considering Jace died while actively defying her direct orders to stay behind. Still, the harrowing fact that the Crown Prince was killed as a direct result of Rhaenyra's catastrophic mistake makes the entire situation feel so much more bitter and avoidable. Rhaenyra was utterly desperate to claim a dragon of her own to prove her worth to the family, and she considered tracking down and claiming the wild Sheepstealer from the Vale to be a massive triumphant victory. While she wasn't wholly wrong to want to bring more firepower to her family's cause, it was an extremely unwise, borderline reckless decision to bring a completely wild, untrained, and unfamiliar dragon onto an active, chaotic battlefield. She genuinely wanted to help her family, but her impatience caused nothing but absolute devastation. The fallout from this event is going to be incredibly messy moving forward. As far as we know, Jace was the only person in the entire sky who actually recognized that it was Rhaenyra riding atop Sheepstealer before he went down. Since this rogue dragon was actively attacking the Blacks and appeared to be the direct catalyst for taking down Vermax, everyone else watching from the ships below is naturally going to assume that this mysterious hostile rider is working for Team Green. Rhaenyra has already lost her youngest son, Luke, to the jaws of Vhagar, and now that this wild beast has indirectly caused the death of Jace, Rhaenyra is unwittingly in an intensely dangerous position. Targaryens do not traditionally take things easy when it comes to blood revenge. And as we have seen time and time again, simply being family does not mean much at this bloody point in the Westerosi timeline. A fractured path to the Iron Throne. The strategic plan to use the Triarchy's naval might to break the choking Velaryon blockade was actually set in motion long before King Aegon suffered his horrific burns or Alicent ever traveled to Dragonstone to strike her desperate bargain. Otto Hightower had originally sent Sir Tywin Lannister to gain Shirako's allegiance way back in Season 2, and it was nothing more than a cruel twist of fate and coincidence that the Triarchy fleet arrived at the Gullet at the exact moment Rhaenyra ordered Corlys to move his ships toward the Blackwater. So, while the history books might technically record this as a victory for the Blacks because they held the line, the sheer scale of the battle has significantly altered and weakened their overall position in the war. Before this encounter, Rhaenyra was mere moments away from claiming the Iron Throne with far less effort, political resistance, and bloodshed than she ever could have imagined. Now her oldest son and chosen heir is dead, and the Sea Snake's legendary fleet has been reduced by nearly 30%, crippling their naval dominance. She may still technically hold a tactical advantage if she chooses to fly her remaining dragons directly to King's Landing right now, but whether she will actually possess the mental, emotional, or psychological strength to do so, given the agonizing weight of all she has just lost, remains entirely uncertain.
Aegon has left me no choice but to remain here and defend the city.
What lies ahead in Episode 2? Rhaenyra started the season in a state of near giddy joy, feeling like the war was practically won without a drop of blood spilled in the capital. Going into Episode 2, however, the entire tone of the series is going to drastically shift into something much darker and more vengeful. Despite the severe tactical and human consequences of the Battle of the Gullet, the Queen is technically still in a relatively good position to swoop in and take King's Landing while it sits unguarded. However, the political victory of it all won't be nearly as satisfying, righteous, or exhilarating given the gaping hole left by Jace's death. Perhaps a grieving Rhaenyra will no longer wish to hold up her end of the peaceful deal she struck with Alicent, or it could very well be that she becomes altogether uninterested in keeping her sacred promise to take up her father's crown and safeguard Aegon the Conqueror's ancient prophecy. The incredibly tricky thing here is that Rhaenyra must move with absolute ruthless speed. The window of opportunity created by Alicent's trickery is closing fast, and once Aemon inevitably realizes he has been played and rushes back to King's Landing with the terrifying might of Vhagar, her easy path to the throne disappears entirely. There is also the added complication of Ormond Hightower's massive army looming in the distance. Alicent managed to temporarily keep her cousin's forces at bay through political maneuvering, but that army will only become a more urgent, significant threat the longer Rhaenyra hesitates to make her next definitive move. The only real way for the Queen to regain the momentum and secure her position as the season continues is to swallow her grief and take King's Landing by force, regardless of how much it pains her to march forward over the ashes of her family.
The Queen didn't say nothing about waiting. She said, come here, kill Aemon.
No, what the heck, I'll laugh anyway.